everybody, this is Dr. Anna, and our today's topic is the Mesozoic. The Mesozoic is the middle time. Remember, we just finished Paleozoic, and then after the Mesozoic, when I finish this one, we're going to go into the Cenozoic, which is the last part of the Phanerozoic, which is the Earth history we have record of. So let's jump into Mesozoic. The Mesozoic is divided into three periods: the Triassic, Jurassic, and the Cretaceous. The Triassic has a duration of 37 million years. The Jurassic is 64, and the Cretaceous is the longest. It has 74 million years of duration. All three of them were named after Lake Europe, because that's where the first geologist was working. So their most important, most characteristic section of this time was located in Europe. The Triassic is in Germany, the Jurassic is in the Jura Mountains in Switzerland, and the Cretaceous is layers in the Paris Basin in France. So what are the most important events of the Mesozoic? The first one is that at the beginning of the Mesozoic, everything was really different because we had a supercontinent, the Pangaea, as you know. Remember, I told you the Pangaea looks a little bit like Pac-Man, and you got the Pantalassa Ocean on this side, the Tethys Ocean right here. You should know that. And yeah, it's easy to draw. During the Mesozoic, the supercontinent, the Pangaea, actually have gotten broken up, and the continents have started to move to where they are today. This right here shows the latest Cretaceous. And you can see that the Atlantic Ocean was pretty much established, and we're going to talk about this like in a minute. So let's talk about the climate now. During the Mesozoic, there was no polar ice caps, so there was no glaciation. We had relatively warm period. We call it the greenhouse time. And if you look at this figure right here, you can see that this here is the Mesozoic right here. So actually I'm showing here the earlier. So from here to here is the Mesozoic right here. And if you look at right here, the upper part is when you have glaciation, and the lower part is when you have warm climate. As you can see, from all the way from the Triassic to the Cretaceous, it has been in actually the warm period. So the Mesozoic climate was generally warm, no glaciation, no polar ice cap or anything like that. Actually, as you can see, this shows you the sea level right here. So as you can see, during the Cretaceous, actually the sea level was just about higher than any other time, except of course this very early time. But during the Phanerozoic Earth history, which is from here to here, the Cretaceous sea level was the highest ever. So it's kind of an interesting time period. Okay, so let's start and talk about the supercontinent climate. The combination of a gigantic landmass and lower sea level. Why? Because we have all this huge big continent, and we have a lot of mountains. And during this time, we didn't have much tectonic movement. So we have extreme continental climate. Just imagine, like, the Gobi Desert today, which is really not such a big continent. You know, of course it is relatively big, but if you think about it, it's not as big as Pangaea must have been. And you know, the Gobi Desert is really, really big time a desert. Just like if you go to Nevada or those landlocked areas in the US, it's still very, very dry climate now. So you can imagine how much drier was it during the Pangaean time inside this huge big continent. It was just crazy. And if you go on the Tethys side, as I already kind of drew it, that's where the monsoon was working, just like it is today, because of the moisture from the ocean and all that reason. But the monsoon was much, much bigger in the Tethyan side than it is today, because the continent was much bigger and the ocean was much bigger. So everything was mega. We call it mega monsoon. There is abundant evidence for this extensive dry climate, especially the red beds, which is aeolian deposits, which means wind-carried deposits. That means that everywhere you go, it's cross-bedded red sandstone. And we have a lot of evaporites, which means salt deposits, salt, gypsum, and hydride. Those are the evaporites. And it's all the way through the Permian and some of the Triassic. So this all because the climate was extremely arid from the extremely continental climate. So it seems like then, as I already kind of told you, that during the Mesozoic the climate was extremely warm, and all the way to the Cretaceous. During the Jurassic and Cretaceous, the global sea level was so much higher than it is today that actually people have started to wonder how could that be. And probably they associate it with the increased activity in the seafloor spreading department. I mean, if you just think about as Pangea started to break up, there was a huge amount of new oceanic crust forming, and oceans are forming, so therefore the water is much warmer, and actually it expands as it gets warmer. But we're gonna talk about that just in 1 second. Actually, the next slide. So one of the most important thing about the Cretaceous, as you can see, that is the highest sea level in the Phanerozoic, and especially the Mesozoic. Actually, it is interesting how can scientists explain this very high sea level, and how could that be? And it seems like that during the Cretaceous the sea level was about 200 meters, that's 600 feet. So it's really much higher than today. Okay, I'm gonna stop right here and we'll continue in the next segment.